Welcome to the Driven Young podcast with Byron Dempsey, dedicated to educating and inspiring the younger generation around entrepreneurship and practical life skills we aren't taught in school. Created for young people who seek direction in establishing their goals and passions. This podcast provides a platform for discussing the steps taken by professionals in their field related to handling finances, making money online, starting a business, growing a network, and much more. And now your host, Byron Dempsey.
It used to be simple. Go to school, go to uni, get a job, work at that job for 10, 15 years, maybe get another one, and you're done. But nowadays, it's completely different. It's never been more difficult to get a job, but it's never been easier to make money. So guys, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest who delivers so much practical takeaway value for those in high school or uni who are either unsure if what they are doing is the right path for them, or are pursuing a creative industry and have no idea how to get their foot in the door. Then you do not want to miss this episode. My guest today is a creative and social media master when it comes to video. During her role as content producer at one of Australia's biggest news and media outlets for women, Mamma Mia, she's produced videos that have gotten over 50 million views. Not overall, she's separate individual videos that have gotten over 50 million views. Briony Benjamin has since started her own company, Social Parade, shortly after being blindsided with lymphoma, a rare form of cancer. Today, we get into some awesome topics. How she easily got into the creative industry, the power of building your network, my favorite part of the podcast, social media and how it's affecting us, Tik Tok, is it good or bad, the opportunity it's presenting us. We touch on her experience with cancer, how it helped her to realize who her friends were, and more. We also touched on Greta Thunberg and how our generation has a chance to leave behind an amazing legacy. As usual, I'll be putting up my favorite clips from this episode on social media, so if you liked a certain part of this interview, chances are so did I, and you can check it out on Instagram or Facebook or your preferred platform at Byron Dempsey or at Driven Young Podcast. Now, over to Briony. All right, Briony, welcome so much to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks
Super
for
excited
having me.
to have you on.
Awesome to be here in your awesome studio.
Yeah, thank you. It took a long time to set up. Just want to set the scene. Can you tell me how you got to where you are? You finished high school. Did you go to uni? Did you get a job, internship? How did you get to where you are and what are you currently doing?
Yeah. So when I finished school, I actually went off and did a gap year for a year, which was the best year ever. Can't recommend a gap year more highly. Like for me, I'd done 12 years at school. I thought it's time for a break. So I went off to this little town called Giggleswick in the middle of nowhere in far North Yorkshire and worked at the Giggleswick school for a year. And then I travelled all around Europe in the breaks and the holidays. So that was really, really fun. And when I came back from that, I enrolled in a business degree because I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I loved business and entrepreneurship. So dabbled in lots of different subjects there, did a bit of law, did a bit of commerce, just kept trying different things, couldn't quite find what I liked, and ended up just doing a commerce degree, and thought, well, I'll scrap the other bit, scrap the law, finish with a commerce degree, so I've got something. So then I had jobs lined up at like PwC and Deloitte to go do accounting jobs or consulting type jobs, and decided last minute that I didn't want to do that. It just was feeling in my gut. It was just not feeling right. Yeah. So instead, I started my own business teaching speech and drama to little kids and went and enrolled back in another uni degree. And I went to film school for 3 years at QUT up in Brizzy.
Amazing. So you went from what could arguably be like two completely different industries.
Yeah.
One from like accounting to something very creative.
Totally.
And were you scared to make that shift? Because it's almost like you're about to kind of give up on the past 2 or 3 years of uni and everything you've learned to do something that's completely different.
Yeah, well, I think while I was doing my commerce degree, I was doing heaps of acting and local theatre community groups at the college I was at the time. I was the cultural convener, so I was doing music and dance, and I was doing so many creative things. And then I actually entered a short film festival for the Telstra Mobile Movie Awards, and it ended up winning and getting, so I came down to Sydney, got flown down to Sydney, and I'm sitting there in this theatre at the State Theatre on Market Street watching my little film that I shot on a mobile, and this is before the days of iPhones, this was shot on some old Nokia crappy phone, and I'm watching it up in this theatre, and I'm like, oh, this is what I want to do. I don't want to do what I've been doing. So yes, it was scary, definitely, because I think the biggest thing was that all my friends were finishing their degrees.
Yeah.
And they were all getting jobs and, starting real jobs in the real world. And I was there going, I'm going to go back to uni. And it sounds crazy now because I'm 33 now, but at 21, I was thinking, I'm so old. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like, I can't commit to another 3 years of uni. What am I doing? Like, I did feel quite concerned about that, I think, when everyone was sort of really seemed to be getting on with their lives.
That's pretty common though, I still find. Like everyone will be like, and they're wanting to do this and that and that. And it's like, just relax. It's like, if you are passionate about something, go back and do that, and you're still only going to be 24 or 25.
Exactly. And I finished my film degree. I'm 24. You're still an absolute baby. You don't realize it at the time, but you have so much time ahead of you, and you've finished, and it's over in the blink of an eye, honestly. And all I could think is, I'm so glad I did that and made that choice to pivot rather than just go down the path of going into a job that I would have hated, working with people that I wasn't particularly passionate about, because, you spend your every waking moment thinking or consumed by your work. Like, you've got to be doing stuff that you love.
And do you think you started off in business and accounting and stuff, because Deloitte and can't remember where else you said.
PwC.
Yeah. They kind of guarantee relatively high paying jobs. Do you think it was you influenced by the money?
Yeah, it was probably the money, but it was more so that seemed like the right career progression or the thing to do, I went to a college in Brizzy, St. John's, which was a lot of fun, but everyone around me were all, becoming engineers and lawyers and doctors, and like that's what they were all doing. So it's easy, I think, sometimes to get locked into that and think that that's the right path.
I think the thing about becoming an engineer or a doctor or something, it's very safe. You finish school, sure, you need to get the right ATAR or whatever it is, but then you go uni and you're going to get a job, and then you're going to go move up the ranks and get up to wherever position you want to get to. But I guess it can be very scary when you don't do that. And I think that's why people say entrepreneurs are risk takers. Because people always complain that business owners make too much money, I find. But really, there's so much value in the safety of uni engineering, that path.
Yeah, definitely. I think those paths are much more, and if you want to do engineering or you want to be a lawyer, if that's your passion, if you love it, then fantastic. But if it's...
because your parents want you to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's got to be like, why are you doing this? And I think... the thing with a creative pathway or a business pathway, there is no linear path. There's so many different ways to get in it and move around it and where to start. And so it's a lot harder in a lot of ways. But for me, it's been incredibly rewarding, and I love what I do. And I'm so glad that I pivoted and did that.
Yeah. And so what is it that you do now? You've pivoted from accounting to video, creative, viral videos with Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
So what are you currently doing now? And what have you been doing for the past kind of few years? Yeah.
So I've been executive producer of video at Mamma Mia Women's Network for the last few years.
Just real quick, what is Mamma Mia?
Yeah. So Mamma Mia is the largest, I suppose, digital publisher in Australia for women. So they reach millions of Australian women every day. So in my role as executive producer of video, I was basically given the job, working for the amazing Mia Friedman, who's like a force to be reckoned with. She's a phenomenon. She was like, your job is to make us famous for video. Yeah. So it was a pretty broad brief, pretty fun brief. And so I started there, 3 years ago. And in that time, we cracked a bit of a formula, I suppose, for just making viral videos and making branded content and editorial content that, reached and connected with millions of people. And we actually just won Best Use of Video at the Mumbrella Awards last week, which was pretty great, for a video we made for International Women's Day called If a Man Lived Like a Woman for a Day.
And that because when we're talking viral, we're not talking like 100,000 views. You guys will get mega viral videos.
Yeah, like that's sitting on like 28 million views right now.
So chances are, if you're listening to this, you've seen one of her videos.
Hopefully, that'd be cool. And so that was that role there. Before that, I was, I suppose, being a producer, and before that, I was a production assistant. So straight after I left uni, what I made sure I did while I was at uni is I got to every industry event that I could. So I was on every mailing list for Screen Australia, Screen Queensland, all the funding bodies, Screen Producers Australia, and I would get to all those events and I'd go along and volunteer and help out. So while I was at uni, I was making all these amazing contacts and networks. And in fact, in my final year of uni, I remember getting kind of reprimanded by one of my uni lecturers because I wasn't going to be there to watch a screening of a final assessment thing because I had like paid for my own flights to go down and volunteer at this producing conference where I met some people who gave me my first job in the industry.
Yeah.
You know, so I was like, sometimes the uni mindset, then, you know, they're not thinking
bigger picture.
Bigger picture. So for me, it was just key to get to all those events. And when you're young, you don't really know anything really yet. You've got great other. Well, I shouldn't say you don't know anything. You've got heaps of amazing things to offer people, but you don't know how to produce a film or a doco or anything like that yet.
You know the money.
Yeah. But I think some advice someone gave me really early on, which is like the best advice I've ever been given, is like just be really interested in people. Like be curious, be kind, be the funnest person in the room. Like go to those events and just be fun and listen to people. So
which
ask
is how we
question.
met.
Yeah.
At an event.
Right? Totally. So I think that's like just an awesome piece of advice for networking in general, because I think people get really tense and a bit stressed about the idea of networking sometimes, and I've got to go meet people and force myself on them and sell them something. And it's like, well, no, you're just trying to find people that you connect with, that you would want to work with one day, and maybe you'll never work together, or maybe you will, but it's just about being interested in people, asking them questions, and then being genuinely interested in their answers. Yeah. And so from that, I basically got my first job.
Wait, before you continue, sorry.
Sorry.
I just wanted to focus on how, because I love what you just said about you at uni. You're at uni, but you were still. I feel like even while you're at uni, you were still being entrepreneurial. And so many people can be doing this. I think while you're at uni, you need to be building as many connections as possible.
Completely.
And because I know a lot of people who aren't doing any of that.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's your plan when you finish uni? Get a job. How are you going to get a job? It's not as easy as that. Yeah. You need to have connections. So I would definitely recommend to anyone out there who's kind of worried about getting a job after uni, network. Yeah. I think network is one of them. Yeah, start now. I started when I was like, I don't know, I was doing video stuff when I was like 11, 12, 13. Like, so I was kind of doing it with I was doing videos with my music teacher. My parents knew a guy, I got a job with him. And like they just slowly over time, all of that combined led me to where I got now. And it sounds like the same with you. Yeah. And so I just want to really kind of drive that point home, that you can network while you're at uni.
Absolutely. And I think that other mentality as well, you know, you hear entrepreneurs in this space say it all the time, but serve, and then sell. Yeah. It's that idea like you know, going to these big conferences, and I didn't really know yet, like I was saying, how to produce things or really what even producing was. But I did still have things to offer those people, you know, whether it was thinking about social media or, their branding or their marketing. Yeah. So it's like, how can the people that you want to work with and you want them to give you a job or whatever, how can you help them? What are their problems? What don't they know yet that you could help them with? So I think, and just with any interaction really, it's always that thing, isn't it? It's like if you can, serve people before you sell, it's just, it opens so many doors.
Yeah, 100% agree. And sorry, you can continue.
Yeah. So
you did all that, and this is kind of how you broke into a creative industry, because creative industries have such a kind of fluid, like it's not as easy as I go to uni, I'd be an engineer, and then I get a job as an engineer. Yeah. It's like, where do I go from here? And I think it's almost like not 100%, but like 95 to 100% connections with who you know. Obviously what you can do is important, but if you've built connections, it's a great foundation for when you finish.
Absolutely.
And is that how you kind of broke the back?
Yeah, so I was at one of these producing conferences volunteering, and then people are impressed by the fact that you're like, oh, you've flown yourself down from Queensland and you're here volunteering.
Shows you're hardworking.
Yeah, they're like, wow, that's some initiative. Great. So I met these guys that gave me my first job as their assistant. It was on a big feature film that was going to be shot down in Melbourne, and I was super excited. Although looking back on it, it wasn't really a project that was aligned with the work I'm passionate about, what I want to do. But anyway, I was having a great time, was working really hard, and 3 months into that job, I actually got fired. And it was the shock of my life at that point. Like, I had never failed at anything before. I'd been like, just riding a good wave, I suppose, until that point. And it was just such a shock to me. I was absolutely devastated. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, my career is over. Like, I'm never going to get another job ever again. But it was actually the best thing that, so often these things are the best thing that happened 100%. To you. Right? Because I thought, well, bugger that. I'm really good. Like, that wasn't warranted or whatever. Maybe I wasn't the right fit for that project, whatever. But it made me so hungry and determined to prove how good I was.
Yeah.
So I literally packed up from Melbourne that weekend. I drove up to Sydney, stayed on a friend's couch, and reached out to all of my contacts that I'd built up over the years from my different like events and volunteering and a lot of change making people in the change making space, climate action space, and they just cast the net out for me. And within a week I had my first producing gig, and then a week later I was offered a full-time job at an agency that specialized in social impact and social change. I was like, I've literally landed my dream job because I got fired from this job that that was like not aligned with where I want to go completely. So I just think that's something to always keep in mind, is sometimes the worst things that happen to you
for a reason
are the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good mindset to have.
Yeah.
And almost every successful person seems to say that at some point something really bad happened to them, which was a catalyst. Not that that's really bad.
Yeah.
But like bad things happen, which can be a catalyst for you getting to where you are currently.
Totally. And I think, the only given in life, right, is that there are going to be tough times that come up, whether it be a relationship breakdown, a financial breakdowns, a health issue, whatever it is. So it's really about building resilience, I think, in your body and your mind. So it's about how you deal with those things when they come along.
Yeah.
Because it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it's going to happen to everyone. So, yeah, moved to Sydney and got that job. And that was working with a whole bunch of groups like Get Up, the Climate Council, World Wildlife Fund.
Producing?
Yeah.
Videos?
Producing videos for them.
For social?
Yeah, for social media predominantly. So for YouTube, Facebook video wasn't massive then, but increasingly got more and more big. And so my favorite video in that time was I made a viral video that did about 40 million views, went all around the world. It was about palm oil.
On YouTube?
Yeah. So it did like 5 million views on YouTube, and it did about 35 million on Facebook between a few different groups that shared it. And that was, for a group called The Sum of Us. They were trying to raise awareness about palm oil. And that's where I started to hone this idea of using comedy and using humor to cut through on important issues.
Yeah.
And because it's always been my passion point, is like, if you really want to tell people something, if you really want to get through and cut through, like, make it entertaining.
If I think of any ads that I really enjoy, all of them are comedic.
And you can sometimes say so much more with humour, than you can if it's dry and boring.
Exactly.
And so that's sort of become my thing since then. It's like using humour to say something important, or using humour sometimes not to say something important, just to have a good laugh and make a silly video. But I think I do love to always make content that has a purpose in its core, that it's trying to say something important or change people's minds on something or open their eyes to something they might not have thought about before.
And that's incredibly difficult to do, is to create, like, have a purpose. So like palm oil, like, you can make a viral video around anything, but to make a viral video around something monetary, or creating money for the brand. Like if you think of Dollar Shave Club or stuff, who has these huge videos, which in turn has generated millions and millions of dollars for them. It's incredibly difficult to do.
Yeah.
And so that's how you got into the creative industry. Basically, if we were to sum it all up, you got into the creative industry by leveraging your connections that you'd built over the multiple years while at uni.
Networking, getting to events, volunteering, helping out, got my first starting point, and then from that, began.
And you learnt... And you learned a lot. You just obviously built up your experience to get to where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. So when I got my first job in Sydney, you start normally in production on the lowest kind of part of the ladder. Started as a runner/production assistant. It was in a really small company. There was only one other main producer there at the time, and we would just hire staff in freelance. And within 6 months, I was promoted to a producer, and then within another couple of months, I was head of production. And meanwhile, like, actually hired all of my mates from uni that I'd gone through with. It started one by one.
That's awesome.
But started, my favourite editor from uni, got him to move down from Queensland, got him a job, then another editor, then my friend got her to come down, be our production coordinator, then got another friend to come down, be our office manager. So by the end, there was like 5 of us that were all my uni mates, and we grew the company from there. But I think that goes once again back to the power of your networks, is not just thinking about people out there in the world. It's like the people that are your immediate friends and, your alumni at uni, like, or wherever you might be, school or whatever, like, it begins from there. So I think you know, it was the people at uni that were really hardworking, that did amazing work, that you trusted and were reliable and knew they were going to pull out an amazing job every time. They're the first people you call that when you want to then tee them up. So it begins from that network as well. And for me, that was one of the most valuable parts of going to film school. It wasn't necessarily that it's going to teach you.
That's what I hear, because I went to film school for a little bit.
Yes.
And everyone says, you know, film school's great, but the best part you get is you get introduced to the head, like the teachers who then introduce you to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it's the networks and the contacts from the teachers, your lecturers, and the people that you're going through with, because they're going to become your immediate, you know, collaborators and colleagues. Yeah.
So keep that in mind when you're working, especially in creative industries.
Yes.
Because they have the ability to bring you in as
exactly,
an editor,
and it's a small. I would say as well, you know, it's a small world. Like, media is a small world, particularly in Australia. Yeah. And it's like that thing that you just never burn bridges, I think was another really good bit of advice I was given from a family friend early on. They're like, before you fire off an angry email or, you know, make a call or say something you're going to regret, always just ask, will this help future Briony? Like, will this help future me?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, don't do it, no matter how good it might feel at the time. Because it's amazing how sometimes people who might upset you or, you know, have done something frustrating, you know, that might come back to then be a great ally down the track or help you out with something else. 100%. And you could have just blown that person off and never have anything to do with them again. It's just never worth it, I think.
Well, most people aren't thinking that long term. They're thinking very short term.
Exactly.
Like, they piss me off now. Like, I don't care. They're dead to me.
And definitely, I don't think it means, like, you never stand for people being disrespectful or rude or abusive. That's a different kettle of fish. But when it's over something that's, you know, not that major, I just think, don't burn the bridges. Yeah,
it's smart. And you kind of brought up something that a previous guest was talking about, which he says opening doors. And it's basically, you don't know where to go. Just start by getting a connection. If you can get a connection, they'll get you this job, or they'll get you, you know, even if you're just delivering coffee. Yeah. And then that will open a door, and then that will open a door, and that will go on and on and on until suddenly you've opened 1,000 doors and now you're head of whatever. Yeah. Or you're doing what you love.
And I think the key thing is, like you said, it might be going and getting coffees. It might be a tiny little job, but you have to do, like, I think you have to go over and above and do every job amazingly. Because if I can't trust you to get the coffee order right, why am I going to let you look after a client or, you know, produce a job? Like, no way. So I think it's like, even every little job is a stepping stone to the next thing. So it's just like, you know, doing great work no matter what it is that you're asked to do. And
well, that's how because my uncle started off, he's a photographer, full-time photographer for one of the Sydney Herald or one of the big companies, and he started off just doing coffee. Yeah. He was the assistant in the office. He'd just walk around, he'd give coffee and stuff, and then he'd build his way up and so on.
And it's kind of, in creative industries, it's really much is the progression. And it's sort of, you've got to do those hard yards to get to the next level, because you can't really just jump in as a producer. Do you know what I mean? And because, one, you don't learn the ropes, people don't really respect you.
You don't have, what rungs have you got
on the board? Yeah, on the board. So, yeah, I think you just start, you know, you start in at the bottom, you work really hard, you go above and beyond. And, you know, things that I always say to people when you're starting out, things that don't require any experience or any skill are turning up on time, you know, going above and beyond, being professional, being well dressed, being kind, you know, just doing the right thing by people. Like, those things don't take
That was one thing that I don't know why, I've just always tried to be on time. Like every single job I've been on time. Not every, someone's going to call me out. But overall, I'm always trying to be on time, even for insignificant events like meeting up with a friend. And that's just like a habit that most people should try get, because it's huge. I've had people who's worked for me, and when they haven't been on time, it's really like, they might think it's small, but in me, I'm thinking bigger picture. It's like, if they can't be on time, I'm thinking, I want to have this person for 6 months. Maybe I'll get someone else.
And first impressions are so important. If someone's going to be late for the first, you know, job, then it just straight away you have a feeling of unease. Can I trust this person? Are they reliable?
So getting your foot in the door through coffee or whatever. I used to work for free heaps. I'd actually lose money because I'd have to travel into the city or something and pay for lunch or whatever it is. And but let's move on. So you got into the creative industry, and then you recently just did a podcast for Mamma Mia with Mia about your battle with cancer.
So about a year and a half ago, I got the shock of my life. I got diagnosed with blood cancer.
Was it only a year and a half ago?
Okay, wow. I was working at Mamma Mia at the time. I'd been going to a doctor, who I'd been seeing for a number of years, and she just misdiagnosed it as stress, basically. And yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't just stress. It was a blood cancer called Hodgkin's lymphoma. And what that meant was that I had, it was stage 4 by the time it was diagnosed. It was all through my body. So it meant beginning chemo, going through treatment, like the whole thing. So it was a huge shock. I relocated home to Queensland, and on the first week when I was diagnosed, my friends all pulled together and got me some filming equipment to go with my iPhone, so that I could, if I wanted to, start to document the process and film it as I went. So I started to do that, and that culminated in a little film that I just put out last week, which has just hit 1 million views on Facebook.
It's amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Loved it. So good.
It's called You Only Get One Life. And the whole idea with that was just to, because people said to me, can you really, in 3 minutes, like, share what happened in a year and going through all of that craziness? And I was like, well, my first love is short form viral video. Yeah. So I want to try and make it happen. And my colleague who I work with, Claire Gerber, who we worked at Mamma Mia together and have just set up our company Social Parade, focusing on social video, she edited it for me. And so I just gave her all the footage of the year of filming. The poor thing, it was a bit traumatic. I was like, here's all the footage of my crazy year going through cancer.
As an editor, I can imagine that would have been a shit show.
Yeah. So then she sat down and I wrote a script and she edited it, and we just put it out in the world. And so as part of that, I spoke with Mia on her No Filter podcast and just shared some of the learnings of going through that experience and what it taught me.
So I like, because if you want to listen to the podcast, by the way, check it out. We won't go too much into it here, but I really liked how you used the video as almost like escape, as like a project to kind of help you through this. Because I had Are You OK on, the founder of Are You OK Day, and he went through a 5-year depression, and what helped him get out of it was writing a book.
Yeah, wow.
It's kind of I think it's, if you're in a tough time, you can shift your instead of focusing on the cancer, you can focus on the video. Yeah,
it gave me something else to think about. I suppose it removed me a bit almost from the process.
And it's like every time you go to the doctor, it's like, okay, great, this will be good footage for my video.
Yeah, exactly. It flips it. So I enjoyed it. It's probably not for everyone. But the other thing I think too is you can just start filming and recording stuff. It never has to go anywhere, do you know? But like the idea of just logging my thoughts and doing like video blogs. Like I just did video logs the whole way throughout it. Most of them are just still sitting on a hard drive. They're not anywhere. Yeah. And I might never put them anywhere. But as a process of just being able to dump out everything that was in your head and what you were thinking, I think it was really helpful and quite therapeutic. Yeah. Yeah.
As opposed to just sitting there just dwelling on the fact that, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. So, who knows? Maybe I'll make a longer form doco with it one day. But for now, I'm pretty happy with 1 million views on a little viral video. It's great.
It's amazing. Yeah. But just kind of like a summary, how was that experience for you? Has it given you like a new perspective on life? I know it's probably cliche when you have something traumatic happen.
Well, no, like it's funny you ask that because it's the first thing everyone always asks. Yeah. So actually off the back of the video going out, I've had a publisher reach out and they'd like me to, think about writing a book, because exactly this, people want to know what are the things that it teaches you. I think the really key things that came out of it for me is that in life you just need the best people around you. Like you have to cut people out of your life that don't add value, that don't lift you up, that don't love you, that don't celebrate your successes as if they were their own.
It's that whole 5, audit the 5 closest people around you.
Yeah, the direct 5 people around you are a reflection of you, and
they say you'll normally be earning around about the same money.
Interesting.
Just statistically speaking.
Yeah. That's you are. What do they say? You're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So I just think you've got to really think about that. And I read the book Minimalism last year by the Minimalists, which I loved, and it was just before I got diagnosed. But they have this idea, this theory that in your life, think about all the people in your life, and you have and then break it up into your primary, your secondary, and then it's periphery. It's everyone else. And they're like, so your primary is, your partner, your immediate family, and your closest friends. And it's like you put all your love and your energy into those people. And if there's any energy left over, it can go into the secondary people. And if then there's anything left over, then it can go into the periphery. But most people spend, I think, a lot of their time in the periphery, and then the people closest to them don't get the best of them or their best.
Especially because the periphery has never been so accessible through social media.
Exactly.
Like all these people liking your photo. You only care about 5 people who are liking your photo, really.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it.
So
but
true.
You want to get the 50 or, 200 other people who are the peripherals.
Yeah.
And another great example I've heard of it is if you imagine your life as a movie, and at the end credits it comes up with, you know, Byron Dempsey, and then it comes up with your mum, your dad, and your closest people, and then it comes up with Stuntman 1, Stuntman 2.
I love
and it's like
that.
all the like you don't care about those people. You only care about the people who have the names at the beginning of the credits.
As a producer, I just love that analogy so much. I'm definitely going to use that.
It's really good. It's really good when you think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have the top ones, and then you're gonna have, as you said, the secondary, which will be maybe, you know, directors, producers.
Yeah,
that sort of
and then
stuff.
all the people that you've walked out of the cinema by this point.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't matter. And I think, you know, when you get a cancer diagnosis, for example, it's definitely a really amazing way to crystallize that list. You know instantly who the most important people in your life are. And, you know, I suppose for me, I wrote down their names and I called them one by one to let them know what had happened. And that's your primary, you know, and they're the people you got to put your time and energy into. And if there's people within that primary that are not adding value or, you know, not lifting you up, and like, it sounds harsh, but you've got to remove yourself from them, really, because they're not going to be there for you when it hits the fan, you know? Yeah.
So you didn't announce it, like a big announcement saying you called up people one by one?
Yeah, and I didn't put anything on social media for probably the 6 months, first 6 months.
I don't know you at the time, but you're still big on social back then?
Yeah, like I didn't quite have the following that I've got now, and I wasn't playing around a heap in the space, but I didn't put anything on my own personal social media even. I just wasn't ready. I didn't want to share. I wasn't really comfortable with how I looked at that time as well. Like, I didn't want to. Whereas now, you know, obviously you've seen the video. It's pretty raw. It shows everything. Like, it shows me being bald. It shows me shaving my hair off, like having no eyebrows. Yeah. And I just got to a point where, it's funny. Even though, you know, objectively you might look at it and go, oh, you look so ugly and so whatever at that time, you know. For me, I'm now comfortable with it. I'm like, well, that was me at that point in time. That was what I was. That was the experience of it. And so putting it out into the world, I thought I would feel more worried about it, but I kind of didn't. I just got comfortable with it.
Because it was so authentic, that's why people love it. You know, that's why it got so many views, because it's so authentic. You show the rawest and the realest part of it. Yeah. I also think the world's shifting in terms of body shaming is far less. It's still an issue, but all that kind of no makeup and body shaming is far less.
People want the real deal.
Exactly.
Now, you know? And it's not helpful putting out this like perfect image of everyone's perfect lives. Like, no one, you know, everyone's showing their highlight reels. It actually doesn't add a lot of value to other people's lives. And I suppose that's how I always think about content. It's like, how does this add value to someone's life?
So because I almost would attribute so much to where I am through social media content, through Gary Vaynerchuk, I follow a whole array of different people and podcasts I listen to, and it's helped change my mindset because I've watched good social content. I still follow people who put up perfect pictures and make you feel shit about yourself. But like, if you can try, you know, contrast it with actually useful content, so I would almost say audit your social media feed.
Totally. You have to, because it's like we were saying, get clear about the people you want in your life. I think the people you follow is that as well. Because, you know, if you're constantly comparing yourself to people with these unattainable, over the top lives, it's not helpful.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to talk about TikTok.
TikTok.
So you've just discovered TikTok, like as of 2 days or like this morning?
This morning, because I knew we were going to talk about it today, and I've been like on the app and watching for ages, and I love it.
What are your initial like gut thought, having been on it for like a day?
Well, I just think that TikTok is going ballistic, and you can see why. It's just like quick 15-second dopamine hit.
Yeah, it's just bang.
Yeah, it's fun, it's joyful, like it's crowdsourced creativity from all around the world. So yeah, my sister Molly and I, we sat down this morning and made our first TikTok. So we just did one where, you know, you what do you even call it? Like, you just replicate
copy the audio,
and
lip sync.
Yeah, I saw the Rebecca twins.
Yeah,
the gymnastic girls. They'd done one which I thought was really funny, so we took that audio and we did that. And yeah, it's just been fun playing around with it today. And I just think the app is, I love the design of it and how it makes it so easy to create really cool videos. Yeah, within it.
What are your thoughts on, like, if you had a daughter or a son who was 16 or 17, what are your thoughts on them using TikTok?
Oh, I mean, that's not a space I'm into yet, having not have kids or anything like that. But I think...
But like, just think, because I guess the way I look at it, I've got a 16-year-old sister.
Yeah.
And she doesn't use it. I'm kind of glad she doesn't use it, because I just think like it's a great platform, but I think it's the same thing as Instagram, is what we were just saying. It's just kind of hot person after hot person after hot person. You can feel quite crap or about yourself.
Sure.
And
see, I feel a bit differently about TikTok compared to something like Instagram, because I feel like, yes, while there is a lot of that, people just being pretty and looking hot, dancing and whatever, there's a lot of creativity in it as well, and there's lots of really innovative things that are happening on it. And so I think, you know, it's just about being like if it's someone young, I just think just be careful about what you're sharing. Are you showing, you know, if you're filming things in your room, and like just be aware that millions of people could potentially see this, and if you're not comfortable with that, then be thinking about where you're filming and what you're filming and what you're comfortable putting out into the world. And are you going to be able to deal with any backlash or trolling, awful comments? So I think it would be important to have a strategy in place as a parent.
Yeah, well, I've seen people who've put up videos and they've gone quite big, and then they've had negative comments, and it's like I've seen people like cry. Yeah, and it's like because when they put it up, they don't expect it to go huge, and if they do expect it to go huge, a lot of people don't fathom that people are going to give negative comments. But that's the world we live in.
Yeah, I've been really lucky in all the videos. So I've been in a lot of viral videos now at Mamamia, and I've actually never had a negative comment directed at me, like maybe at the video or the creative or whatever. Yeah. But I've never had anything personal yet, and I know it will come at some point.
Just to clarify to people listening, you actually star in the videos, don't you?
Yeah. Yes. So I never thought I would when I got the job as head of video at Mamamia, but just we had so much video to make and churn out that we just started playing around and we were in things, and then something went, like our first video went viral when I was like 5 weeks into the job, 20 million views. This video went all around the world. It was a very important video called Heels versus No Heels. So it was just split screen, me on either side doing everything in sneakers versus heels. Yeah. And obviously it really resonated with the women of the world. But so it's not something I've personally had to deal with before, but I probably need to start thinking about having a bit of a strategy in place of how to deal with those kind of negative comments, because I think it can really obviously take a massive toll on people's mental health.
Depending on what type of person you are.
Yeah.
Like I think, and it depends on the comment, but I think if you're not open to criticism, be careful with TikTok, because you can blow up so easily.
So quickly, like the variety of it is crazy, isn't it?
Facebook and Instagram, you know, you'll put up something, it's not going to go viral unless it's really good.
Yeah.
But you could put up something on TikTok and it could go huge and you'll love it. You'll refresh your app, watching it go.
It's addictive, doesn't it?
Send it to all your friends.
Yeah.
And I think it can just be quite dangerous especially for the younger generation. Just be careful. Have fun with it, but be careful. Yeah, I would say.
I'd agree. But I was playing around this morning with the different AI filters, and they're amazing. Like, blew my mind a bit today, because you know there's Snapchat filters and there's Instagram filters and whatever, but this just feels like on another level. Like some of the characters and things that you can do with it. So just the creativity inbuilt into the app, I'm really enjoying.
And for people listening, like TikTok is a huge opportunity, I think, for you to start building a brand or to start, you know, doing something if you don't know what you want to do. If you think you can create videos, or you know, I've seen businesses like there's a chiropractor on there who has like 2 million followers. He just he puts a mic and he cracks their backs, and it's really satisfying. And so people love his videos. So I've seen people actually trying to use TikTok as a way to build their brand or whatever. And obviously there's TikTok stars out there who are making heaps of money. Yeah. So I think it is a good opportunity for people out there. I think
it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger is my feeling. It's just going to keep exploding. I mean, what is there, 700 million active users? 800 now? On it, it's in 150 countries. It's in 74 languages. And I think too, because of that nature, it's something that we found at Mamamia a lot. It's like when video doesn't rely on dialogue, when it's just visual, it travels way, way quicker, right? Because there's no language barrier. And that's, I think, the huge advantage of TikTok. It kind of works in any language.
I'm not sure if you checked it out, but I think also a huge reason for TikTok's success. Have you seen the share button?
Yes.
So you can share it directly into your Snapchat and send it. You can share it straight onto your Instagram story.
So amazingly integrated.
You can share it to Facebook, Instagram, like the click of a button.
Yeah.
So it's immediately just leveraged the billion users of every platform, and it's started. And obviously,
it's so clever.
It imprints a little TikTok watermark in each corner.
Yes. So you know where it's come from straight away. And I think that the idea too that they've designed it, and like you said, you integrate it straight with your YouTube channel and your Instagram, whereas it feels like a lot of the other platforms kind of want to just keep you locked in there. Like, you know, Instagram make it really kind of quite hard to link out to other places. I mean, you can do it now, but it's...
Well, we're getting a bit technical here, but like because I'm a video as well, you don't want to post, your YouTube link on Facebook, because Facebook then goes, hey, I
Exactly.
don't want you to take me away from Facebook. So instead you want to re-upload it onto Facebook.
Yeah.
Whereas TikTok's like
And
just
I love
firing off to every platform.
I think that's another thing that's just going to see its success go more and more and more, is that they've just fully integrated it like that. It's really cool.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, I always want to ask, can I go deep into this question, which is, you've gone into creative industry. You've obviously brought a lot of value about how to get into creative industry, which is networking and stuff. You recently went through cancer, which is a life-changing experience. What would your one piece of advice be for the younger generation, for people in high school or university, and like what they should do?
Yeah. Like, I think it's a really good question.
It's a hard question.
It's a big question.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
Because obviously I've already spoken about, ways of being interested in people and networking and all those sort of things, which I think is really great. But in terms of just getting really clear, I think from the outset about what is your vision for your life, starting with the end in mind. And I love that idea of, it sounds a bit grim, but almost thinking about the day you die and thinking about, what do you want at your funeral for the people to say about your life? Who do you want to be there? What is your legacy? And I think if you start with that end in mind and really think clearly about what would living really big in your life, what would playing big, what would the ultimate be for you? Because if you don't have that vision to begin with, you're sort of just floundering around. So I think get really clear on the vision that you have for your life, what you really want to do. And then from that, you can charge forward. And I think a really helpful way to find that out, because people say that, right? You're like, but what is my vision?
That's
what is
not
my
practical.
purpose?
Yeah.
There's this book called The Artist's Way. I don't know if you've come
heard of
across it. I did it last year when I was going through chemo, actually. And it's broken into 12 weeks, which was kind of funny because I had 12 weeks of chemo, so it kind of lined up really well. But as part of that, you do a thing called the morning pages, which is journaling. So it's just like a brain dump, 3 pages, first thing you do every morning. Doing something like journaling like that is an incredibly amazing way to get clarity over who you are, what you want to do, where you're going, what's really important to you. Because I find when you put pen to paper and you sit there, it's really hard to lie. It's impossible actually to lie through the written word. Yeah. And the idea with the morning pages is that over time you get clarity. It's like this brain dump. It's like taking the cloud of thoughts in your heads, getting them out, getting them on paper. And so for me, last year going through chemo, I journaled every single day. It's a really, really helpful thing for a tough time. But it's an amazing thing in terms of helping you clarify what you actually want to do with your life and where you want to go. So I'd really recommend that. And especially in this digital age where we're spending, what's the average Australian spending a day of their week on their phone?
Probably more.
Like 24 hours, like literally Lorna Jane's running this campaign at the moment. It's like, that's 2 months of your year. So as someone who works in social media and is on my phone constantly and is, I think that's a really important thing to be aware of as well, is like, are you in control of your connection with your phone and how much of your life is this sucking away? And it's something that I'm definitely needing to work on myself, wean myself off my phone. But I think getting off the apps, getting off, having times when you're just not on it at all, putting pen to paper and sitting there and journaling is a really helpful way to get to your vision.
So there you go. You got a big picture advice and practical advice to go with it.
Yes, that's what I love doing. Awesome,
love it. And you mentioned you were in social media and everything. I would be curious to know, what are your thoughts on social media and how it's affected the younger generation? I'm not sure how aware you are of like how deep it is in their culture, and like growing up with it obviously is a completely different way to grow up.
Yeah.
I actually kind of grew up kind of with it. Like I was 10 when Facebook kind of came out, and then no one was on Facebook until I was like in high school really, or like, late primary school. Yeah. So I had it throughout high school. Yeah. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, personally, I'm really glad I went through school and uni basically without social media.
Yeah, I would be too.
I think that the hardest thing is that, we know that mobile phones, they're changing our brains. They're changing our ability to focus and get things done. And so I think it's about really, yes, social media is fabulous in lots of ways and it connects the world. And I think there's lots of amazing movements that we're seeing, that have the power to change the world through social media. But I think it's always asking that question, am I actually in control of this?
Yeah, or is it
Is this an addiction now? And getting, and just having boundaries that you put in yourself. Like I now have app blocking apps on my phone because I know Like, you need to be in control of it. You look at Steve Jobs, you look at some of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in the world, they don't let their kids have time. You know, there was an article came out the other day that said the only acceptable basically amount of screen time for children under the age of 5 is 0 minutes. Like, that's what the, you know, health experts are saying. So I think parents need to be really, really careful. And if you don't have people that are putting those boundaries in around you, just being really aware of, are you in control of your relationship with social media and technology? Because I think, it can be really damaging, and I think it
can be vicious.
Yeah, and I think, you know, unfortunately, I do think we're going to see huge increases in mental health issues and anxiety and depression and those things as a result. So it's just limiting and having control over it, which is something I think that the whole world is working on a way through, right? Yeah,
definitely. That's definitely something I'm working on as well.
Yeah.
I don't get addicted to many things, but my phone, like, I think it's more addicted to talking to people, like the communication, not the actual, I'm not playing games or anything.
Yes. And just that always on thing. Like, for me now, I'm trying to turn my phone off at night. Like, so from 9 p.m. I'm like phone off. So not just not using it, but it's off, because there's actually, they say there's part of your brain, if it knows it's on, even if you're not looking at it, you're still being distracted by it. Yeah. So I turn it off and I don't bring it into my bedroom anymore, because I think if it's for a lot of people, I think it's the last thing you do at night and it's the first thing you do in the morning, and that's not good for your headspace.
I did want to bring this up before. I'll bring it up now. You're talking about legacy, right?
Yeah.
So what is your legacy going to be? And I kind of thought, I feel like for my or kind of just the younger generation right now, kind of millennials or Gen X, whatever we are, I feel like our legacy could be to almost save the planet. What are your thoughts on what's been going on recently with the recent climate change? You got this Greta girl.
I think it is so awesome. I love Greta Thunberg. I'm like the biggest fangirl. And I think what is really amazing, what we're seeing in the world right now, is that young people are energizing the entire adult population.
But that's what I'm saying. It's our generation is going to be, our legacy could be, we've saved the planet.
I certainly hope so. Yeah. Or we're all in a bit of trouble, aren't we?
Always screwed, yeah.
I'm speaking at an event in a few weeks called Videos for Change, and it's young high school students from all around the world that are making videos on social and environmental impact and change. It's a fantastic organisation, so that's a really cool one to get involved with if people are interested, Videos for Change. But I think, like, what we're seeing from these climate rallies from Greta Thunberg is never underestimate your own power.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how young you are, you can change the world. And I think, you know, that one girl just starting her one strike by herself. Have you seen the image of her first school strike?
No, I haven't.
And it's just her sitting by herself with a sign. And then, you know, the split screen is like the giant protests all around the world.
Yeah,
and it's
the latest one.
It starts with one thing. And I've always loved the expression, never think you're too small to have an impact. Have you ever tried sleeping with a mosquito in your room? You know, and it's just
I've heard that. That's
something annoying. Small and powerful, and you can stop a human sleeping for an entire night. And I just think young people around the world right now, it's extraordinary. They are re-energizing the adult population. Like, I work with a lot of campaigners, change makers that are running some of the biggest NGOs in the country. And they are being re-inspired and reunited and hopeful again about the world and where we're heading. So I think young people do and will change the world.
Like legacy, I think we have the potential legacy to say we, you know, our generation saved the world. But the flip side, the older generation, their legacy, if they don't like kind of get their act together, could be we killed the world. Because if you look at the world's gone to shit in the past 100 years. Basically, the past 100 years has been more damage than, you know, almost everything else combined, thanks to cars and all the latest technology.
Yeah.
And obviously, had I been born in 1960, I wouldn't have been any better. So I'm not trying to sit on this high horse of our generation. But I think, you know, the older generation, as you said, we're starting to see them get re-energized, which is really good to see, because they have the power, like in the government and going solar and with coal and everything.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing though is, just young people realizing how powerful they are. I mean, I was interested a few years ago. I got involved with the AYCC, their Australian Youth Climate Coalition. They're the youngest youth movement in the country. And they did some training with us where they were like, who's your local member? And I was thinking, I don't even know who my local member is. And they're like, you know, they're your local member. Like, they serve you. They are there to serve you. So they set us all a challenge of going to see our local member, booking a meeting with them. So we all went and did it. And it was this amazing experience as a young person to go and see my local member and be like, hi, I'm Briony. Like, I vote for you.
Yeah, right. That's amazing.
And I really care about climate change, and I want you, because they're only hearing from otherwise the vested interests, right?
They're hearing from
a
faceless group.
Companies and coal lobbies and things like that. But imagine if they had 10 young people knocking on their door every day going, hey, I vote for you. I'm living in your area, and I want you to know that I really care about this issue. Like, I think we've got to move back to that as well. You know, it's fine to share a video on Facebook or tweet about something, but we actually need people to get out and motivate it. And politicians will listen when they think it's going to cost them their job, right? Because at the end of the day, they want to be in a job. So, yeah, that was a really interesting exercise to do, which I'd encourage everyone to just go and do. Just go meet your local member just because you can.
As you said, I don't even know who mine is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. I think it's been an amazing conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
Key takeaways, we'll see what you think. I think the networking has been a huge takeaway, because that's something I 100% agree on. Always networking to build your connections, and then opening doors. I think by sounds of it, you've just kind of opened door after door, and it's just bang, 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 and you're still opening doors now.
Yeah, and coming back to that thing of be interested in people, be kind, and how can you help them out? And I think if you do that, networking is not scary. It's actually really exciting. It's an opportunity to meet people that you like, that you want to do things with and work with, you know?
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And maybe we'll have you back on one day.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. If you are still here, thank you so much for listening to this entire episode. If you got some value out of it, it would mean the world to me if you left a review on iTunes or shared it with your friends or family. Otherwise, I'll be putting up videos of this episode on Instagram and Facebook, so check it out there at Byron Dempsey or at Driven Young Podcast, and I'll see you on the next one.